like to ask the question, like, when was the last time that there was a piece of gear that you saw that made you go, oh, that's different, or oh, that's, I've not seen that before, or that's changing the game in some way? Because I think, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I tend to see quite a lot of things that do, you know, very similar jobs, in even quite a lot of, like for me, things that kind of really impress me sometimes are even like 30-year-old pedals, and it's like, oh, that's, you know, meaningfully different to things that I'd tried up until this point. Do you know what I mean? So, or, you know, things like the Helix came along in 2015, and I think looking back, we can kind of see, well, actually, that did transform the landscape a little bit of modeling. So yeah, and the Kemper as well, like 2011 or 2010, whenever that was, realistically did change the lives of touring guitarists, and probably might even, for some of you guys watching, got you into, you know, direct tones in the first place. Maybe even if you're a bit older like me, like the Pod XT or the original Pod, you know, point out in the comments some things that you thought were really innovative. For instance, for me, the Gamechanger auto pedals, I thought that's not something I've seen before, like combining some kind of Euro rack principles with a guitar pedal and coming up with something, you know, kind of different to anything that I've seen before. I'd love to sort of chat about some things which are maybe actually sort of game-changing, if you've got any ideas.
This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
So I was particularly interested by this pedal that Greg basically asked me if I'd demo this. He's the guy behind Karma Pedals, and I think a customer of his from Ireland or something had suggested it, and I kind of thought this was a bit of a game changer, and some of you didn't like me using that word, but I was going to explain in this video why, and I also ask, like, what does game changer mean in 2025? I'm going to chuck it on the floor. So I'm going to try and gig this. I've got a gig tonight with Jake Loosemore Band in Lyme Regis, and I'm thinking this is going to be the only drive pedal I take, and I've got a Fractal VP4 here on the floor, which is going to do some other things. Plugged here into a deluxe reverb. Personally, I do try to use the word game changer sparingly, and it, for me, normally means something that I've not seen done before. And that was the case with this pedal. So, the idea with this pedal, we've got a Moss distortion this side. I've never tried a Moss distortion. And this side we got Tim Pierce's ODR. Then we got a boost. You hold down that button. With a volume on the back here that we can control. Okay, and then we can also stack these or blend them. So I've got them stacked. And we can also boost. Changing part for me was that there's this master bypass here, which means that I could be in the middle of a solo, and you know, sometimes you get to the end of the solo and you got to do this, get back to clean, and sometimes it's a bit of a tap dance, but instead here and then next time I want to turn it on, I can actually also make that change that I want it to be. So it's kind of, that was the thing for me, it's like combining three combinations. So you got a distortion, an ODR and a boost, as well as kind of this switching element where it's basically like you've sort of got a quartermaster involved. So that for me was quite novel. Anyway, so that's kind of, for me, I thought cool to be able to get that much out of just one pedal. It kind of reminds me in some ways of something like the Keeley Tone Workstation, but with this added sort of switching element. There's a boost that you can even have on, bypass. You change the stack order as well. For whichever you want to be like the predominant flavour when you've got them stacked. Another time I used the term game changer was when the ToneX One came out, because this was to me the first time that, you know, we'd had something that was relatively affordable compared to the other options like a Kemper or a Quad Cortex that could do the capture thing, but also in a small format, but also combining stuff that could be played in the DAW as well as in the hardware, which is still not commonplace. Like Helix Native is the best example of this, and I think now Neural DSP there's some compatibility between plugins and the actual hardware, the Quad Cortex. But I think that's for me what I look for when game changing. For me is like a word that you don't use all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got to be reasonably different, and I thought that pedal was, I think ToneX One was. I'm trying to think of other times when I've used that as a term, because I think a lot of gear is maybe quite, you know, similar, and you know, like one drive pedal to the next, is there like a huge difference between them? Oftentimes no, but I do think there are like little pockets of gear which do sort of do things meaningfully different enough that I think it's worth highlighting them, and using the term game changing is okay for that, I think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is it a word that you hear too much, especially in like a space which is very much oversaturated with stuff that is very similar to one another? I thought it's one way to kind of make a point when something is actually differentiating from other products that are around. Do you know what I mean?